move to item number 3.
I have encountered, and I've encountered this personally as well as my interactions with a number of publics in this community, a question about what the role of the CEO is. This board has had problems with understanding what the capacity is. No, not the board. I have had a problem with understanding not understanding, but thinking that the position that has been taken by Mr. Sullivan in the capacity of CEO has possibly in certain instances gone beyond what I believe the law says it should do. I think that clarifications have been necessary to the public. We've had, and I'm sure that this will be clarified tonight with the vote that I will lose. But I think we've had a situation to occur where people have said, "Do we have a czar in this community and with this board?" I have felt we do not. My reading of 781, and I might mention the fact that I also was one of the people to help draft 781, did not confer that kind of status on the position of CEO. My understanding of it is that the CEO is the superintendent of schools, or as the language says, embodies all of the broad general powers of the superintendent of schools. It is no reference to being the CEO for this board, although I'm pretty sure that will happen shortly. I have requested as of yesterday a review of this and a discussion and an opinion from the State Attorney General's office. I have been informed this evening excuse me, that the State Attorney General will call my office tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to discuss this. Rather than to vote on this item tonight, which will end up being how we set our bylaws, which will be another not very comfortable position for me tonight, I would welcome my 2 colleagues to come to my office, or we can arrange a telephone conference so that each of us better understands at least another point of view. Not suggesting that the Attorney General will be able to say what will soothe or what will clarify this entirely, but at least it represents another point of view of what this position is.
We have each had lots of time to consider this issue. Like you, I've talked to many people. It's obvious that I talk to different people than you.
Right.
And the conclusion that I reached as a result of that discussion was simply this, that the statute did in fact intend one person to serve as CEO in, if you will, a management position, and also to serve in a CEO or leadership role of the board. It was clearly conveyed to me by every leader in this community, both at the state and the city level, that never ever should that position be misused, abused, used incorrectly in any way. Certainly in any way that was to the detriment of the kids. That in fact, if you will, the simple charge to me was, make sure everything you do is for the betterment of the kids in the district. And that is my intention. And I ask you, regardless of how this may come out, if you ever see my actions in any way be to the detriment of the kids in this district, please call me down publicly on that.
I have. When we ripped 34 people in this school district, I think that was to the detriment of the kids. And I did call you. As it relates to this, we have a certain and a very direct disagreement in terms of what this intends. I have a position that says it does not intend you to be the CEO of the board. I absolutely concur. It gives you the right of superintendent, and you can basically function as the superintendent with or without the superintendent that is in place at this point. And I think it's clear from my reading and the people that I talk to, which obviously are different, that you have that right. And I under no circumstances would challenge that right, and came on this board with the assumption that I would work with you in the position of superintendent of schools, and as a fellow board member who also had one vote on policy, just as I have and as Ms. Adams has. I cannot conceive of any kind of structure that would allow a person who is implementing a plan to also set the agenda for when those plans could be heard. And that's effectively what happens if one person is embodied with that kind of authority.
I believe these are matters that need to be resolved this evening. We have, I think, conflicting viewpoints in either of these matters. Your recommendation is one way, and as I read it, Ms. Adams has one in a different way. On both points, I believe the matter needs to be addressed tonight, one way or the other.
Well, I won't be able to stop them from being addressed, that's obvious. What I would say to you is that I think, given the fact that I don't know why it's so important that they have to be done tonight, we have functioned through 2 meetings with no structure whatsoever. I don't see, we've gotten through the majority of this tonight. We have passed all of the amendments that were brought before us. We have deliberated. We have had substantial agreement on issues. We've had some disagreement on issues. But we've figured out a way to get through this tonight. I didn't come in and take that seat, which is by structure usually the seat of the chair. I think it's presumptuous that you would take that seat. However, I sat over here where I was placed to sit, and I sat here very quietly and accepted that placement. All jokes aside, and some of this is a joke between Rick and myself, I think we'd be better served if we table both of them. Whether or not anybody would change their mind, I don't know. We're all going to make mistakes. But when you make a mistake and you practically have no way, because you dilute the effectiveness or the power of the final body, which is this board, I think that's a mistake.
But based on the 2 bylaws, as I have read them, the only 2 differences really are the title. Instead of having president as CEO, and the second one deals with when we're going to have our meetings. It currently has in there Tuesdays and once a month. Those are really the only 2 differences.
No, ma'am, I beg to differ. The difference is in the fact that president is recognized as the president of the board of directors of most school systems in this country. CEO is not a recognized position as a leadership position that has the authority vested in it on a board standpoint that this one is. I would venture to say that you won't find that anywhere. I think it's wrong. It does not only do, and this is not a slap at Mr. Sullivan, but if Mr. Sullivan, for instance, is not reaffirmed, or if it's not confirmed,
right,
and there's somebody else that sits in his seat, they automatically would assume the position of CEO of the board.
Right.
I don't think that's right. I think that we should basically vote for someone who is not already also charged with the responsibility of running these schools, and at the same time being the titular head. The only spokesman for this school system by structure would then be Mr. Sullivan, whether it's a matter of policy or a matter of implementation of policy. I think that is dramatically different. It's not just 2 points. That's a dramatic difference, the way I see it.
Ms. Adams, would you like to make a motion here?
I move to adopt the proposed bylaws of the Special Administrative Board of the Transitional School District of St. Louis as circulated.
I second that motion. Any discussion?
No, sir.
Ms. Penrose?
Ms. Adams?
Approve.
Mr. Gaines?
No.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ms. Adams, you had another item here.
Yes, I would like to propose, or I'd like to move for the election of officers for the Special Administrative Board for the positions of Vice President, Treasurer, and Secretary, with the election to follow nominations as directed in proposed Special Administrative Bylaw 1B3.
You have nominations
sorry.
for people.
Sure. Nomination for Vice President, Melanie Adams. Nomination for Secretary, Mr. Richard Gaines.
Second?
Is it, the motion's on the floor now?
Motion's on
for
the
those,
floor.
For those, both of those. Because of my beliefs, I will not accept the position of Secretary.
Okay.
Ms. Penrose?
Ms. Adams?
Approve.
Ms. Gaines? Mr. Gaines?
I don't know what to say here. I don't agree with it, so I guess I say no.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion passes.